In this video, we are going to create some particle effects for the projectile, because so far the projectile just shoots forward and then disappears all at once, which doesn't look very good. So let's create a sort of mini explosion to make the fireball vanishing from sight more appealing to the eye. To do so, I'll head over to Create, Effects, Particle System, and you'll see this for now ugly looking particle system in the scene view. First of all, let's change the appearance of each individual particle. To do so, we're going to have to tweak the particle system settings. Now, as you can see, there are a lot of settings and options we can change and edit here. But for now, let's head over to this renderer module and change the effects material to sprite default. Now all we need to do is enable this texture sheet animation module, change the modes to sprites, and now we can click here and choose which sprite do we want each particle to look like. So you can of course just choose a sprite already made and import it inside of your project, but as you can see I don't have many great options here. So I'll head over to my 2D application and draw some sprites I can potentially use for my particle system. So I'll draw a hard round circle, square, star, and so on, and you'll notice that I'm drawing these in white. This way I can easily change the color of each particle later on. Okay, once you're happy with the particles you've made, you can export those as a PNG inside of your Unity project. And then once that's done, choose for sprite mode multiple. Now you can hit apply, enter your sprite editor, and turn each one of these particles into an individual sprite. Again, hit apply up here, and now you can select your particle system, and you'll have a wealth more sprites to choose from. I'll just go for the basic hard round circle. I'll now change the shape of my particle system. For now, all particles are spawning from a cone. I'll change that to a circle shape, and make sure that the particle system has 0 rotation on all 3 axes. You can of course have fun tweaking some of these various settings, such as the circle's radius, change whether this circle is full or not, and so on. Though Unity's particle system may look complex at first glance, with all these settings and options, you'll quickly come to realize that everything is pretty self-explanatory. I really urge you to just test various options and have fun. If your effect ends up looking a complete and utter mess, remember that you can just reset the whole system back to its default state right up here. Okay, now as I said before, I want this effect to be a sort of mini explosion. So obviously I don't want this effect looping forever, so I'll uncheck loop time and change duration to 0.1. This way particles will spawn from this system for only 0.1 seconds. I can now head over to emission and click on this little plus sign. Now our system will spawn a burst of particles. And of course we can choose how many particles we want during that burst. You can also get this system spawning a random number of particles between a minimum and maximum value, which I'll definitely do. It'll make things just a tad less repetitive looking. With that done, let's change the color of these particles. I can do so right here. I'll give my particles a nice orange color. Like with many of the settings found inside of the particle system, you can randomize the color of each particle by clicking on this little arrow and choosing random between 2 colors. And so I'll just make some particles a slight darker orange than others. Now I feel as if these particles should destroy themselves a bit faster, so I'll head over to this lifetime option and choose random between 2 constants. And now each particle will destroy itself after X amount of seconds between this min and max value. I'll also randomize the speed of each particle and its size. I often enable this size over lifetime module down here, and then click on this graph which will have each particle scale down in size over time. This just makes things look smoother and more appealing. You can also enable the noise module and add more or less noise to your explosion effect, which can look pretty fun. Lastly, to make sure our scene doesn't get clogged up with particle effects and as a result lag the game, I'll make sure to set stop action to destroy. In other words, as soon as each particle is spawned and vanished from sight, the particle system will auto-destroy itself. And there we go! That's how I'll go about making a little explosion effect. And I'll head over to my projectile script to instantiate that effect when the fireball destroys itself. Now, instead of destroy my projectile in the start function, I'll invoke a function that I'll call destroy projectile. invoke is basically like calling a function, except you have to write the name of the function between quotation marks, and then state how many seconds delay you want before that function actually gets called. So I'll use lifetime for the delay, and then inside my destroy projectile function, I'll of course destroy my projectile game object, but I'll also spawn the explosion effect we just made. To do so, I'll make a public game object variable called explosion, and then instantiate that at the projectile's current position and with no rotation. And there we go, it's as easy as that. I'll head back into Unity, turn my explosion effect into a prefab, and then drag and drop it inside of the projectile explosion empty slot in the inspector. And hitting play, you'll see that when my projectile destroys itself, it will leave behind a cool little explosion effect. And that will mark the end of the video. In the last tutorial of section 1, Liam will bring you through the process of making a camera script, getting it to follow the player character around the scene. With that said, I'll see you in section 2, where we'll begin creating